Hey guys, Dave here from Guitar Zero to Hero. So if you're starting out on the electric guitar or you're fairly new to the world of gear and more specifically FX pedals, it all might seem a little bit complicated, especially with the sheer number of pedals out there. So in this video, I'm going to demystify and explain in simple terms how FX pedals work and the most common and important effects types in less than 10 minutes. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to go out there and understand which effects pedals that you need to look for in order to shape your personal sound. So in my setup today, I've just got my electric guitar running through a clean amp channel, and the effects pedals will be doing all the heavy lifting here. The amp will just provide the bare tone or the blank canvas for us to shape. So if you listen to my guitar right now, it's a clean tone, nothing special about it. My favorite way to explain and describe a guitar signal chain and effects pedals is by using a bowl of spaghetti as an analogy. So our clean tone coming from our guitar amp is our plain spaghetti noodle. It's fine to eat, but at this stage, it's just a little bit bland. First things first, before we add any toppings, we need to make sure that the pasta is cooked. So that's our tuner pedal in this case, which should always come first in our signal chain to ensure that our guitar is in tune. Next up are our drive and distortion pedals, which are designed to make your guitar tone bigger, bolder, edgier, and heavier. They add meat or spice to our guitar tone by clipping the signal and adding that distorted grittiness that you hear in rock, blues, and metal. So here I've got an overdrive, I've got a distortion, and I've got a metal pedal, and they all work in a similar way. The only difference is how meaty or spicy do you want your pasta sauce? Mild? Hot? Or face melting. Now the right drive pedal for you will just depend on the style of music that you're playing. After our drive pedals, we typically get to modulation pedals. Think of these as our additional or miscellaneous ingredients on our spaghetti. Things like olives, mushrooms, sun-dried tomatoes. They're not to everyone's preferences or tastes, and you definitely don't want to overdo them, but in certain circumstances, delicious. The first modulation pedal I've got here is the chorus, which takes our signal and splits it in two and sets the second signal slightly out of tune and time with the first, creating the sound and illusion of two instruments playing simultaneously. So let's take a listen to chorus. The next modulation pedal I have is the flanger pedal, which operates almost identically to the chorus pedal, but the main difference is that the delay of the split signal is much smaller in this case for the flanger. And as a result, you get that swooshing effect, which is the result of frequencies being cancelled out as that delay between the signals moves. So let's listen to the flange. Our next modulation pedal is tremolo, a volume-based modulation. So a tremolo effect rapidly raises and lowers the volume of our audio signal, and that creates the sensation of motion. So let's take a listen. that's it for modulation pedals. Typically, next up in our signal chain are delay and reverb pedals. I like to think of these effects pedals as the cheese and garnish to our bowl of spaghetti. They really make the meal complete in most cases, but beware not to use too much, otherwise it will overpower your dish and it'll be too cheesy. Delay is first up, and it simply takes your signal and repeats it again and again. With the delay, you can specify how loud you want those delays to be, that's the mix, how long you want those delays to keep repeating, the feedback, and the time between those repetitions, which is typically called the delay. Now, typically after the delay is a reverb. Now, reverb happens when sound bounces off natural surfaces in an environment to create a complex echo, and it's most notable in large empty spaces like a church hall. It can be used to give your guitar an atmospheric sound and is probably one of the most common effects used on guitar. So let's take a listen. Now remember, delay and reverb are important ingredients, but don't overdo them. Finally, on my signal chain here is a looper pedal. I've got this at the very end, so it captures everything coming before it and repeats it again and again for me to jam along with. Think of it like a bottomless bowl of pasta. So those are the basics of a standard FX pedal signal chain. And you of course don't need all of them as well. You can just have 1, 2, or 3, it's completely up to you. Now the order of your chain matters as well. Just like you wouldn't put your cheese and sauce on the bottom of your bowl, you shouldn't start with reverb and delay before the drive pedals. That will just result in a messy sound. Now this particular setup assumes that your amp is just providing a clean tone. Now, if you want to use the drive and distortion built into whatever amp you have, that's absolutely fine too. In this case though, if you wanted to use modulation and delay and effects pedals, you would ideally run those through an FX send and return, which is a dedicated loop at the back of your amp for these time-based effects. In a setup like this, your guitar would go into a tuner pedal and then into any additional drive pedals that you want, like a boost, and then that would go into your amp. Your amp would provide the distortion and gain, and then out of the back of your amp, you would have an FX send, which would then route to your modulation, effects, and reverbs, and then out of there, back into your FX return. That's what you would call the 4-cable setup, because you need 4 guitar cables in order to actually get that running. In this video, I've used individual stomp boxes for each effect, but you can also get multi-effects pedals, which have all these effects combined into one unit. Those multi-effects units are great. Some people find them confusing though, and individual stomp boxes is just a little more simpler to understand. What you see is what you get right in front of you. And a lot of guitarists out there do enjoy just being able to tweak their tone right in front of them without going through any menus or having to go through software in order to do so. So I hope you enjoyed this FX Pedal 101 guide. Obviously, there's other effect types out there, but the ones I outlined today are the most common. I've used the Boss pedals in this video, but other brands will more or less have their own versions of the same effects. If I had to choose 3, it would be overdrive, delay, and reverb for me personally. If you have any questions, then leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Is Already Hero. Cheers.